Every seat in the Minnesota legislature is also on the ballot, meaning those campaigns are shifting into high gear.
Now, that includes a highly anticipated rematch in Minnesota's 3rd District State Senate race, representing most of northeastern Minnesota and St. Paul. DFLer Grant Hauschild from Hermantown is seeking re-election. He's going to face last cycle's opponent, Republican Andrea Zupancich, as she's the mayor of Babbitt. In 2022, you'll remember Hauschild defeated Zupancich by just 740 votes.
And Northern News Now's Maggie Franzen is on to what's next for these two candidates. Maggie.
Dan and Laura, both candidates told me they were glad to see so many voters making their voices heard yesterday. And now their focus is on convincing the undecided moderate voters that they're the right one for the job. Tuesday's primary election saw a historic turnout, leaving both District 3 state Senate candidates eager to hit the campaign trail.
My focus, Northland first, continue to campaign everywhere across my district.
No, we're still plugging away, full speed ahead. We're just doing what we're doing.
While both Hauschild and Zupancich say Tuesday's top of ticket winners don't change their overall campaigning strategy, they are both taking active steps to secure the trust of undecided voters.
Yeah, I'm finding more and more of those people at the doors, and it's a matter of finding that balance between the two and just working together. And so it is important to be able to work across the aisles, no doubt about that.
Hauschild agrees, arguing that winning over those in the middle comes down to focusing on the issues that hit closest to home.
All of the things that really matter for northern Minnesota, that's my focus. And I think that's how you win the confidence and the votes of folks in the middle, is by showing that you're focused on the bread and butter issues that actually impact them most, rather than the side issues and the extremes.
I also asked both candidates where they feel they align with their party's top-of-ticket messaging and where their district needs a uniquely tailored approach.
Like I've always said, I'm putting northern Minnesota first in this campaign. It's not about party for me. It's about making sure that I'm advancing the interests of northeast Minnesota.
I align with the party and the beliefs on all that stuff. I support the police. I support the mining. We need to be able to mine in our own backyard. We want to see the area move forward. We don't just want to rely on one form of income.
Not including lawmakers from Duluth, Hauschild is currently the only Democrat representing northeastern Minnesota in the state legislature. For the DFL, Hauschild is holding on to his seat as a top priority, with their party's one-vote majority in the Senate on the line in November. Live in studio, Maggie Franzen, Northern News Now.